Okay, so for our starter today, we're going to analyze this beautiful little angel picture, okay? So this is a picture that comes out during the 1870s, and it is representing manifest destiny. Manifest destiny is something we're going to talk about today, so I'm just going to give you a couple minutes, 2-3 minutes. I want you to look at the picture. On your starter slide, you'll find where there's some kind of questions that kind of like prompt your thinking. So just go through those questions, look at the picture, analyze the picture, and then 2-3 minutes we'll come back around and we'll talk about it. Okay, so I'm gonna give you another minute or two, then we're gonna come back around and talk about it. Okay, so initial thoughts. We'll start with initial thoughts. What were the first things that you kind of noticed whenever you looked at it? Go ahead, Karina.
They're all looking this way.
Okay, so they're all looking this way. Which way is this? Think of a compass of a map. Which way does that go? West. Okay, so they're all looking west. So they're looking west. If they're looking west, what does that probably mean? Which way?
West.
They're moving west, right? Yeah, Cassidy, go ahead.
I feel like that angel is holding the power line.
Okay, so the angel's holding the power line, right? Okay, what do you think that means?
He's moving colonization.
Okay, right, so they're moving further and further out west. All the people are going to move further out west. And they're, what are we calling that? If we're building things, we're moving out west. Do what?
Expansion.
Expansion, right. So we're expanding out west. We're industrializing, right? We're building. Because where's most of our industrialization at during this time period? East or west coast? East coast, right? So we're trying to move that industrialization out west. Go ahead, Mason. Do you have a question? Or were you going to say something? Your hand is up.
Like the farmers are moving west too,
Okay, so the farmers moving west?
because there's more like farmland, I guess.
Right, right. So they're moving further out west. We're going to expand. What do we notice about the natives and the bison and everyone else out there? Do they look like they're happy?
They're getting driven west.
Right, they're getting driven further and further west too, but they're getting driven out of their homeland and into unknown territories, right? So the white settlers are moving further west. We're pushing the Native Americans further west as well, and we're industrializing their lands. Anything else we notice about it? What do we notice about the color scheme of this
It's darker
painting?
on the west side.
So it's darker on the west side. What does that mean if it's darker on the west? What do we think the author is trying, or the painter is trying to say by doing that?
It's like mysterious, or like we don't know.
Yeah, it's mysterious, it's unknown, right? We don't really know what's out there. So we're gonna have to go explore. We're gonna have to go find and do, okay, right? So this is kind of an introduction to what we're gonna be talking about today. Today we're gonna focus partially on Manifest Destiny, which is a domestic policy that James Monroe in his presidency has, and we're also going to look at a foreign policy that James Monroe initiates as well. But this is what we call Manifest Destiny, and we're going to talk more about what Manifest Destiny is. But it's this God-given right that we, as Americans, can move west, and that no one can stop us. There are no limits, there are no bounds to what we can do. Okay, so make sure you get that done with your starter, and then we're going to move on. We're going to talk about James Monroe a little bit. I really should have gotten some of my tabs back. Okay, so picking up from where we left off yesterday. Yesterday, who did we talk about? Who were the two presidents we talked about yesterday? Jefferson and our short friend, James Madison, right. So, we talked about Jefferson Madison. What was the big thing that Thomas Jefferson accomplished during his presidency?
The Louisiana Purchase.
Right, the Louisiana Purchase. So with the Louisiana Purchase, we double the size of the nation, right? So now we have all these lands out west that we need to explore. Remember, we send Lewis and Clark on an expedition, and their goal is to find passage to the Pacific Ocean. So now that we have all this land that needs to be settled, all this land that needs to be discovered, we're going to start pushing further and further west. And remember, we have been wanting to do this for a long time, going back to Unit 2, and we talked about that British policy that kept colonists east of the Appalachian Mountains. What was that policy called again? Proclamation of...
Proclamation of no more.
Yeah, Proclamation of 1763, right. So that kept us from being able to expand, and now that we have our own nation, this is our land, we can do what we want. In the eyes of James Monroe and many Americans at the time, this is our manifest destiny, right? So James Monroe, in his presidency, there is a strong push for nationalism, this idea that, this is ours, we're proud Americans, we're here to conquer these lands, we're here to make these ours. So manifest destiny, for the definition, a definition of it, is the concept that the United States was predestined to expand from East Coast to West Coast. Has anyone ever heard that term predestined before? Sometimes you can hear predestination. Do what? What? Right? Fate, right, fate. In some religions, in some sects of Christianity as well, they believe in predestination, which in the terms of religion, that would be you're predestined to go to either heaven or hell, right? But in this sense, in the sense of what's happening in America this time, we were predestined as a society, as a nation, to move from the East Coast and expand to the West Coast, right? However, while we're doing this, right, we're not accounting for the native and other European populations that are further west as well. So we have countless native populations that live in the middle of the country, that live in this Louisiana Purchase area. And we also have Europeans who are further west in places like New Mexico, Arizona, California. What group of Europeans do we think have that? Who is in like Spain, right, the Spanish. The Spanish still have control of places like Texas and modern day Arizona, New Mexico, California. All of that stuff belongs to the Spanish government. So we're not really thinking about all these groups that are still out west. But that's not a problem, because this is our manifest destiny. That we are predestined to do this, and nothing's gonna stop us. This quote, from sea to shining sea, it is your manifest destiny. Kind of has a nice little rhyme to it, right? From sea to shining sea, it's your manifest destiny. You need to put it on a campaign button. All right, so it started the massive push westward. That would be complete. That would not be completed for almost 50 years, and it's still going to continue over time because we're going to keep getting things occurring out west that are going to make people move further and further to the west. There's going to be reasons why people want to move out there. We haven't talked about this yet, but does anyone know one of the big things that's going to happen in the 1840s that really pushed people out west? Yeah, the gold rush. Gold rush, 1849. That's why we have the San Francisco 49ers. That's when the gold rush was, right? So the gold rush is going to even make more people move further west as well. So we talked about this. James Monroe had two policies, right? There's foreign and domestic. This is his domestic policy. What does it mean if something is domestic, a domestic policy?
It's controlled.
Controlled in a certain area?
Okay, controlled in a certain area, but what area? If it's domestic, it's within the...
The area.
Like with the house, it's like family.
Right, so if we're talking about domestic policy though, so this is like,
In the
who's
region.
doing this? In the country, right. So this is in the United States. Domestic policy is something happening within the country. So for this purpose, the country we're talking about, because this is US history, we're going to say within the United States. So anything that is happening within the United States is the domestic policy. James Monroe, as a president, had domestic policies, and he also had these things that we call foreign policies, and we'll talk about one of these foreign policies in a second. So if domestic is happening within the United States, what do we think a foreign policy is?
Outside.
Yeah, so this is the stuff that's happening outside the US. Okay. And we'll get to that foreign policy here in a second, but we're going to continue on Manifest Destiny for now. So, three kind of key beliefs whenever we look at Manifest Destiny, why we are deciding to move out west. One, the nation needed more land for its rapid growing population. So we're seeing a massive population boom. There's a lot of people. The East Coast is starting to get kind of overpopulated. So the natural thing to do now that we have all this land, move west. Go explore new places, try new things, right? I mean, it's kind of a thrill for these people. And also, land, the cost of land, what do we think? Do we think the land was super expensive or super cheap whenever they're first trying to get people to move out there? Cheap, right? So that's an incentive for them. Hey,
Wasn't it like a quarter?
yeah, it was very, very cheap, right? You could buy hundreds of acres of land for next to nothing, right? So this was a incentive to get these people to move out west. So we can lower the population on the East Coast, kind of relieve the stress that overpopulation has on that area, and move them further out west. And also we see Americans could bring economic growth and democracy to places that had never seen it before. So this idea of nationalism, right? This idea that we can spread the American way, our American values, our American ways. We can share that. We can share that with the natives, right? We can share that with the Spanish. We can go and make democracy and put democracy in places that democracy has never seen before. So this goes back to the idea of nationalism. And expansion was blessed by God because it was morally right. And that goes back to like this manifest destiny, right? This is God's will. This is God's plan. Going to that Drake song. There's a way to remember it. God's plan by Drake. This was God's plan. Manifest destiny is God's plan. What were you saying, Bregan?
I just said this was another way for them to mission and to like go out and basically just be missionaries to other people.
Right, kind of be missionaries, but in a way, instead of maybe just spreading a religion, we're spreading what?
You're being a missionary to spread democracy.
Right. We're doing it to spread democracy, to spread our way of life. Because as Americans, we're the best. We fought off the British, we gained our independence, we just fought off the British again in the War of 1812. We're riding a high right now, guys. We're like feeling really good about ourselves. So, as part of that, we see this manifest destiny. Okay. So, that is manifest destiny. Now, that is James Monroe's domestic policy. So now we're going to look at one of James Monroe's foreign policies. One of the biggest things, and this one is a huge one, and it kind of has an impact that carries on for a long time in the future. So let's go on to the foreign policy of James Monroe. So when we talk about James Monroe and his foreign policy, we have one huge thing that James Monroe does, right? And that's going to be called the Monroe Doctrine. So Monroe was concerned with the foreign countries, with European countries, places like Portugal, Spain, Russia. And he was concerned about what their intentions were for the Western Hemisphere. Okay, let's think about a map. Whenever I say Western Hemisphere, what do I mean by that? I'm going to draw, this is my beautiful red globe right here. Think about the compass roads again, right? North, south, east, and west. When I say Western Hemisphere, what does that mean? So we have we have an equator that splits the globe in half, right?
The side, part of the globe that's on.
Right, so this, we're going to draw our hemisphere,
To the left.
everything over here. So if we think about a globe, we have like Europe and stuff here, Asia, Africa. So what's going to be in the Western Hemisphere?
America.
America, us. And that's really all we care about, right? That's what America cares about, is us. So Monroe is concerned about the intentions of what these countries are going to do in our hemisphere. There's a lot of places that are still ripe for colonization. All these European countries are still colonizing places, right? There's countries that are waiting to be colonized. As Americans, as a new nation, we don't want these Europeans in our backyard. That doesn't make us feel comfortable. We don't want these foreign powers breathing down our neck. This is our land. This is our territory. We want to protect that. So what the Monroe Doctrine does, what the overarching goal and idea of the Monroe Doctrine, it warned all European powers against interfering with affairs in the Western Hemisphere. So basically we're saying, stop. If you're over here in the Western Hemisphere, if you're over here in our area, in our territory, we don't want you getting involved. Just stay away, right? And we, as Americans, as America, said that any interference would be considered dangerous to our peace and safety. So we did not want this, we did not encourage this, and we spoke out against this. And not only did we speak out against it, but we made a declaration as part of the Monroe Doctrine that said America would defend any nation that wanted European powers out of their country. So if European countries were coming over and colonizing these places like in Central America, the Caribbean, some places in South America as well, we said, hey, we got your back. If you're tired of these European colonizers in your country, we're the best at revolutions. We won one. We know how to do it. So we'll protect you. We'll help you. We'll do what we need to. But this whole thing is keeping Europeans out of the Western Hemisphere. This is no longer European territory. America is starting to establish itself as what? As in the region. We're starting to establish ourselves as the power, right? We're starting to establish ourselves as the dominant power in the Western Hemisphere. And we don't want Europeans in our zone. Stop. It's the danger zone, right? This is our area. What is also so important about James Monroe and the Monroe Doctrine is it's going to shape U.S. foreign policy for the next 120 plus years. So our foreign policy is going to be based on this Monroe Doctrine pretty much leading up all the way to World War I. When we first start hitting the world wars, we'll see that our policy starts changing. We start entering a more globalized world at that time. But really, the Monroe Doctrine is going to be our foreign policy as a nation for the next 120 plus years. This idea that do not come over here. This is America's area. This is our zone. This is our place. If you're a European or if you're a colonizer, stay back. This is for us, not for you. I enjoy this picture here. There's a sign, I don't know if you can say what it says, but it says no trespass, America for Americans only. So obviously we got our Americans over here. What do we notice about these guys? Who do we think they are?
British,
Well, they're probably British, but not just the British. But
Native American.
like,
where are the British from? What continent's Britain from?
Europe.
Europe. So these are the Europeans, right? We got that man looks like he could be British. That kind of looks like an old Winston Churchill or something, right? That man looks like he can maybe be Spanish. Kind of looks like he has a sombrero on hat of some kind. Maybe the Frenchman up here with the musketeer mustache, you know. So these are the Europeans, and we're saying, hey, no, here's this line. This is the Western Hemisphere. You're not coming over here. This is us. This is for us to protect. And we're going to be here, American right here, right? And we're going to protect the native populations. These people that you're coming over here and trying to colonize, we're here to stand with them. We're here to protect them. Okay. So I think we should do a Jamboard now. I think we should do a Jamboard. So on Google Classroom, it should be the same Jamboard link that we did the other day. I think we did a Jamboard, didn't we? Did we do a Jamboard the other day?
Yes.
Yes.
Right, so it should be the same link that is on that Jamboard. Just go to page 2, I think. Here, I will pull it up. Well, if my computer will stop being crazy. I will pull it up and we can
Yeah, there's
look at
3
it.
pages on this one.
Okay, cool. So it should look something like this. And I'm gonna break you up into groups so you kind of know what you're going to be doing. Jamboard, here we go. Okay, so when you get to the Jamboard, there's 2 different sections here. We have the domestic policy of James Monroe, which is that manifest destiny, this idea that we're going to expand west, right? And then on the other side, we have foreign and the Monroe Doctrine. So on this side here, we're going to give you 3 reasons why people are moving out west, why we're wanting to expand out west, right? And then over here, we're going to talk about what is the significance of the Monroe Doctrine. What does it do, okay? So I'm going to kind of break you up into groups. We're going to say this pod right here, we're going to say do manifest destiny. This pod over here, Monroe Doctrine, okay? Over here, manifest destiny, Brecken, you can do Monroe Doctrine, okay? So we should do manifest, Monroe, okay? So you're only having to do the one I assigned you. So go ahead, put your sticky note up there. Just do it on one sticky note. That'll make it easier when we talk about it. And then after you guys get that put up, we will kind of talk about it. I forgot to go over here, Chris. You can do manifest destiny. Yeah. And if we can drag them and make them all, nice and organized and neat, that would be fantastic.
I have a charger if you need it.
That's a good idea. Why don't you charge that while we're doing this? That's a good idea. You know, man, you do your Jamboard. I got it. You do the fire charger. Don't let me forget to do your strike right there.
It's somewhere in this little thing I get to charge my last two.
Oh my gosh, you still have the plastic cover on it. I see how much you use your charger, Haley. What is
Oh, my
that?
Chromebook's charged.
Oh, that's the
It's
second part.
2 pieces.
You have not opened this thing yet.
No, I haven't because I haven't needed to charge my Chromebook yet.
Well, that's okay. It's gonna get some use now. Not even for your Chromebook, for someone else's Chromebook, but it'll get some use.
I just say,
It's just a little test run.
I'm about to say, depending on what type of phone you have, these use phone chargers.
Oh, yeah, you could use
Sure, see, but I have an iPhone, I don't have a C charger.
I use a C charger to charge mine because mine uses a really fast charger.
Yeah.
I can also try your phone as well. Yeah, I get the call.
Okay. Okay, Mason. So you should be charged up by the time we're done. So no excuse why you don't have Chromebook for the rest of the day, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So give us a couple more minutes, and then we'll kind of talk about some of the things that we've posted up here on our jam board. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. Okay. Okay, so here's what I want us to do for this one. I want us to go around, and I want you to read one that you did not put. Okay? So do one that you did not put. Doesn't matter which one you can read, but just do one you didn't choose. Okay, go ahead, Logan. Just start us off.
More land, it's cheaper, and it made for easier trading.
Okay, so when we're talking about moving out west, we got more land, it's cheaper, so the land's cheaper, it's probably gonna be cheaper to live out there, and easier trading. So we're gonna be able to start trading, kind of be like a boom, right? If you're the first one out there, you're probably gonna be on the bottom floor, right? So you're gonna be able to build yourself up from there. If you're the first person out west that does something or has a talent for something, you're gonna get on that bottom floor. That's gonna be very great for you. Okay, Karina, what you got?
Put need for land, for population, economic growth, and they thought it was morally right and blessed by God.
Okay, so morally right, blessed by God,
Given?
need for more land. What was the other one?
Like God given?
God given. Okay,
I don't know.
cool. Cassidy, what about you?
Monroe was concerned with several foreign powers that shape U.S. foreign policy for the next 120 years.
Okay, so Monroe Doctrine shaped foreign policy of the U.S. for the next 120 years. So yes, that's very significant because that's not something that's just affecting James Monroe and the United States in the 1820s, right? Late 18 teens, early 1820s. This is something that's going to affect us for a long time to come. Okay, Mason, how about you?
The domestic, more land is cheaper and easier trading.
Okay, so more land, cheaper, easier trading. So we're kind of seeing that common reoccurring theme, right? Cheap land, more land, and easy trade. And it's our God-given right, because that's kind of the whole purpose of Manifest Destiny in the first place, right? Brecken, what about you?
There was a lot of land for not a lot of money.
Okay, so once again, cheap land. Good. Hudson, can you read me one from the Monroe Doctrine?
The significance.
Yeah, significance, right.
Significance of the Monroe Doctrine would be that it has shaped the U.S. foreign policy for the next 120 years plus.
Perfect. Okay, so we're kind of seeing those recurring themes, right? This idea, whenever we look domestically to Manifest Destiny, we're moving out west simply because we got more land, it's cheaper, it's our God-given right, and we don't care about who's in our way, we're going to do it anyways because we have this strong sense of, what was that word we used? Nationalism, right? We're Americans now. Remember, early on, we didn't see ourselves as Americans. We saw ourselves as people from Rhode Island. We were Rhode Islanders or Georgians or what from whatever colony. We got our independence. We've kind of built up our nationalism. We win the War of 1812. We kind of sparked that nationalism even more. So now we're ready to take on the world. No one's gonna stop us. It's America's way or the highway. So either hitch on or get left behind. Literally, because we're gonna have trains here in the next 20 years, and we'll talk about that when we get there. But it's the American way or the highway. Good. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. I have two things I want us to put in our interactive notebook. So you're gonna need your interactive notebook. Okay. One of them is from yesterday, the Louisiana Purchase. I kind of want us to just go on there, throw this in there. This should be the first thing we're putting in there. So do the one on Louisiana Purchase, and then today's, this is talking about James Monroe with his foreign and domestic policies. Go through, answer the questions. Don't forget, you gotta give me the definition of foreign and domestic too, and then post these in your interactive notebooks. Cool? Cool. Okay, let's do this. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that's right. How many more? Yes. We're gonna put them in our notebooks. So cut them out like this. Yes. You got this. You got this, Hut. Just have a little faith in yourself. Okay, so go ahead and cut these out. We'll get them pasted in, answer them, do whatever they need to do, and then we will go from there. Yes. Oh, did I steal your paper? I'm sorry. You need both of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
I need the, Louisiana.
So you have the Monroe Doctrine?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll
Yes.
be here.
Yes, I'll take that though. Are you done? Yes. Okay, let me.
Can you come around with the box,
Which box do I need to come around
the
with?
recycling box?
Yes, I will come around with the recycling box.